The ancient Tibetan Buddhist teaching of Dzogchen holds that there is no difference between reality and dreams. The essence of an individual is without form and not dictated by a corporeal body, just like the ethereal figures that navigate throughout the dream world. As an extension of this, in the early 1900s, the concept of the tulpa was recognised by Western theosophists. A tulpa is a creature born of the mind, a thought form that becomes reality through sheer force of belief. While the religions of the world are as varied and as diverse as people's individual fingerprints, this concept exists in numerous different world religions. In Jewish mysticism, the semi-human figures known as golems are created via intense belief and repeating certain words over and over again, repetition embedding non-real concepts into people's heads until they become reality. In Christianity, the idea that good things come to those who truly believe is constantly emphasised. Indeed, the very essence of faith is belief becoming real. This doesn't mean that anybody can think a tulpa into existence. Controlling one's own mind is difficult. The human brain is so vast and so fragmented that people's own thoughts can shock them so much in a dream that they wake up. How can one part of the brain be so surprised by what another part of it conjures up? The answer is simply that the mind is multifaceted, complex, and we're never fully in control of all of it. So what's the relevance of all this if tulpas are so difficult to transform into flesh? The significance lies in the fact that all of the major faiths depict tulpas as playing a role in existence itself coming into being. In the Bible, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Christians have interpreted this as being a fancy way of saying that only God existed. But is this how you would interpret it? This passage doesn't seem to intuitively mean this at all. The word is a single concept expressed in language by its very definition. The Word was with God seems to imply that God was ruminating upon it. The Word also was God, so God was thinking about himself. And through this he ended up existing. He thought himself into existence and he is his own tulpa. The Torah says Elohim said light will exist and light existed. Later on it specifically states that light is used to mean God, saying God's very essence is light. It is the visible manifestation of his glory. The word manifestation suggests that he manifested himself. He stated that he would exist, and as a consequence he then existed. It seems that he also willed himself into existence. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the Creator made the universe out of himself. To do this, would he not have also had to create himself, the basic building blocks from which everything else was made? The Nasadiya Sukta, a Hindu creation myth, states that God arrived with the creation of the universe. It also questions whether God willed the universe into existence. Now, although this is posed as a question, when taking into account the teaching of Dzogchen, it becomes apparent that it's actually a rhetorical question to which the answer is abundantly clear. The first thought to ever exist was a thought from the mind of God, and it was a thought of God, and it created God. All these things happened simultaneously, with an intense belief occurring that was so powerful that it created a deity within no time at all. Now, what separates tulpas from other religious figures is that there's actually some recent evidence for their existence. French-Belgian explorer Alexandre David Neal set out to discover whether these things exist or not with an open mind. Whilst concentrating hard on creating a tulpa, she managed to create a monk-like figure that she said developed independent thought and later had to be destroyed. Neal said, "Once the tulpa is endowed with enough vitality to be capable of playing the part of a real being, it tends to free itself from its maker's control." She likens this to the birth of a child, with it separating from the mother and becoming its own being. How is this possible, I hear you ask? Well, actually many scientists believe that there's no clear separation between the mind and the external physical world. In a seminal paper called The Extended Mind, scientist David Chalmers, in collaboration with philosophist Andy Clark, used the example of somebody writing in a notebook to store their memories. If the human brain is solely composed of matter, then what's the difference between memories being stored in a physical repository in the brain and the graphite of a pencil storing memories graphically on a piece of paper? Both are initiated by a human being, and both store memories. So why is one thought of as inherently different than the other? What is the separation between the physical world and the mental world? Now, through our experiences with tulpa, David Neal actually became acutely aware that there is no separation between the mental world and the physical world. And David Neal was no nut job. She wasn't a crackpot who would randomly believe anything. She's an incredibly well-reputed explorer who did most of her exploring in the early 1900s, way before the internet and way before the prospect of getting fame through making fantastical claims. She's also incredibly influential, with her writings going on to influence Beat Generation writers like Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg. She was a renowned geographer and documenter of other cultures, and not the type of person to have made something up. So what's the significance of God being his own tulpa? Subscribe to this YouTube channel and all will be revealed in time. Thank you for listening.